We're getting into James Carville. Some people call him the Crypt Keeper, whatevers. But James Carville, oh boy, oh man. This interview that he had recently is going pretty viral. And I want to compare it to something that he said just 5 months ago. Just 5 months ago. I want to remind you what James Carville said, because we're going to compare it to what he's saying now. This is right after the election. Listen to this.
So you, as Mr. It's the Economy Stupid, was this an economy election? And if so, is Sanders right that on populist, working class, kitchen table issues, the Dems didn't do enough?
Well, what he is not right about it, Democrats have done a number of things for working people. I mean, Obamacare expanded health care for 23 million more people than had it before. A lot of things in President Biden's Build Back Better program created millions of jobs for working people. But I think Senator Sanders has some of a point here. And that is, there were things we could have run on harder that have effect. The minimum wage. It passes everywhere by 70%. I mean, I know that President Biden was for it and Harris was for it, but we didn't put it front and center. What about taxing the incomes over $400,000 and taking that money and put it in a first-time home buyer's mortgage relief fund? I mean, there were things that Senator Sanders would favor that we could have put more front and center. Now, there are a lot of things that are just popular that Democrats are for, and they're popular with every kind of Democrat in the country. They also happen to be popular with independents and even some Republicans. And we should run on a popular thing. A popular thing was not continuing the Biden administration. That was clearly not what people wanted. I think he's a great guy, but people didn't want more of that, and that's what we gave him.
5 months ago, he basically said that Bernie Sanders was right to run on a populist like message, right? Like, people are paying attention to the economy. You know, maybe we just didn't have the best campaign, etc. He's talking about the Kamala campaign. He was also talking about Joe Biden as well. Now, I had to show you that because, like I predicted, James Carville has already changed his tune. It's interesting what people say post-election, like immediately after the election. That was in November. And then what they say a couple of months later, because just like that, James Carville has fallen back in line. This is what he's saying now. Check this out. This was an interview that he had with Politics War Room, Al Hunt. Listen to this.
Well, you forget 2020. Everybody wants to forget 2020, particularly the progressives. Okay, after you had Biden, whose old definition of been around the track a lot, you had Bernie, you've had Elizabeth Warren, okay, you had Buttigieg, you had everybody. It was not close. How many times do Democratic voters have to tell you, we don't want you? It would certainly happen.
So here's the first part of him being disingenuous. So see how he flipped just like that from what he said 5 months ago? Right? Okay. So was it the voters that said they didn't want him? Or was it the DNC that said they didn't want him? 2016, was it the voters that said, hey, those states that you won, we're going to give those to Hillary? Or was that the DNC? In 2020, was it the voters? Because when we're talking about that populist message, didn't that help him win New Hampshire and Nevada? And I would say also Iowa. Pete Buttigieg lied. Right? Of course, things changed when they got to South Carolina. But I think we all know what happened there. And I think we all know what happened after South Carolina. Obama picks up the phone, makes a phone call, tells people, drop out, get out of here. But keep Elizabeth Warren in on Super Tuesday. This is James Carville all of a sudden pretending like the media, including himself, who heavily was smearing any type of a populist message at that time, played a big part in that. Let's continue. This is why I told you guys not to trust it. This is why I said this, because people are like, oh my God, they're all saying the right thing. They all get it now. It's like, I feel like sometimes the audience, right? Like those of us that are watching it, the people who are not a part of that, especially that DNC bubble or that DC bubble, it's like the DC bubble is playing checkers and the rest of us have been playing chess. Flip-flop, sorry. The DC bubble has been playing chess and the rest of us have been playing checkers. That's what it feels like. It's like they already figured this out. Like their job is to make you think, oh, you know what? Maybe those leftists and maybe some of those progressive ideas were right. Maybe they have a point. Maybe they da-da-da-da. And I'm going to warn you about that now. What I'm trying to warn you about with them leaning into the whole AOC thing. This is all a trick. Like they're playing chess. And then you see how they turn. Let me let them go on.
Happened in 2016. It was straight up. And by the way, give Bernie Sanders a lot of credit. He raises a lot of money. He's got very passionate following. And he wins in Vermont. Okay, but that's about it. And the question is, do we want a more ideologically pure, committed party, or do we want to win elections? And it's really that simple. And by the way, they have run in primary after primary after primary. They were all really well funded. And Biden didn't even show up on the ballots until South Carolina. So it's not like you don't have a shot to make your case. You make the case and people keep rejecting it.
So do you see how he's just pretending? He's leaving out everything else that happened that helped Biden win South Carolina? You see how he's leaving everything out about all the people that Obama told to drop out of the race?
But this what part of this don't you understand?
Tate in Blackstone, Virginia, the home of Virginia Tech, says since Trump is using emergency powers to impose tariffs on Americans, does Congress have any power to?
Okay, that's the part there about the Bernie part. And then they get into the Trump part about the tariffs and all that kind of stuff. But do you notice how his tone has already changed? Notice how his message has already changed that quickly? We're not even headed towards midterms yet. And he's already done. You see that? See the game that's being played? Their job is to convince you, because Kamala lost, right after she lost, their job was to convince you to make you think, let's make the left think that they were right. So that then they'll come right back over to our side, right? But then they get in line very quickly. He didn't even honey, if we put ink on the paper, the ink didn't even dry. That's how quick he shifted. And this whole idea that David Hogg is pushing the Democrats, and what David Hogg wants to do, he wants to get those other Democrats that are not a part of that populist message out of there and have them primaried. That shit ain't gonna fly either. And let me show you what he's doing here. Check this. He has a message for David Hogg about that. Listen to this.
Is David Hogg. Who's David Hogg? David Hogg is vice chair of the DNC. He was a survivor of the Marjorie Douglas Stoneham catastrophe, apocalypse, whatever you call it, mass murder. And he is a young, but very progressive, in a hurry young man, fine. And he is trying to raise money to primary other Democrats. All right, now wait a minute. Let's get this straight. He is the vice chairman of the Democratic National Committee, and he is talking about raising $20 million to primary other Democrats. Well, when I look at the DNC, ideally it should be an organization that's trying to beat Republicans, not other Democrats. And if you want to have a kind of squad thing where you go, they never run against Republicans. Understand that. The squad never ever runs against a Republican.
With the exception of AOC.
Who did she run against?
You know, she ran against a bunch of Republicans in the congressional elections last. She
But that
helped.
was a plus 30. But she helped. I think
she
she's
helped
a little
the
better.
No, but your point's right.
That she doesn't. When you're in a plus 30 Democratic district, I just don't pay attention to you.
So the point that he's making here is that you should not primary another Democrat, that person should just continue to maintain that seat. That person should just skate right to the general election and not have any type of challenge. Let me make something very clear. I think all these people got to go. And I've been very clear about this. I think all those people in Congress have got to go. I think the whole slate needs to be wiped. And you need a mixture of things, the same way that they have in Germany, for example. I think you need some Greens in there. You need some independents in there. You need a mixture. You need something other than this two-party system, okay? But this mindset that because you have a seat, you deserve to keep it is ridiculous. That no one should be able to challenge you in your own party. What kind of BS is that? And it just makes no sense. I never heard the entitlements. I have the seat, so don't you even think about trying to run against me. James Carville basically believes that these Congress members should just ride this shit out on into retirement and become like Nancy Pelosi and be there like in your 80s, or Dianne Feinstein, be there like when you're 90, etc. But nobody should ever challenge you in your own party. It's wild when you think about it.
I understand that, and somebody's got to win. But when you're talking about using the power of the DNC, whatever power it has, it's not very much, but you're using that, and we're paying, Democratic donors are paying David Hogg's salary, they're paying David Hogg's staff, and he wants to run against other Democrats. Well, that's America. Run against who the fuck you want to, but don't resign your position. Have guts, man.
Pause. I just want to talk about taking someone's spot, right? If you played sports, you may have had the opportunity to take someone's spot. Just because there's a captain of the basketball team, just because I'm the captain of the basketball team, doesn't mean that I'm going to be the captain 2 years from now. It doesn't mean that. You got to earn it. And you should want to fight to keep it. So this is just bizarre to me. These are things I just don't understand. I just don't understand. What are you talking about? So the people on the bench never get to play? So the people on the bench never get to play? If I get injured, if I get hurt, I'm still supposed to be allowed to play, and the person on the bench is not allowed to come up and sit and replace me and get in my spots? You say, oh, that doesn't happen in Congress. Dianne Feinstein didn't even know where she was before she passed away. They were telling her how to vote on legislation. They were telling her what to say. But they didn't want anyone else to come get that seat. You can learn a lot from sports. And people say, oh, well, the jocks are stupid or whatever. No, I don't believe that. Let me tell you something. As someone who played sports, you can learn a lot by being on a team. Because when you're on a team, it's not just about you. It's not. You have to learn how to work with other people. And you know what? When you fall, your team is supposed to be there to help you get back up. If you're out, your team is supposed to be able to fill in that gap. But I don't even think at this point anymore, these are even teams. Like, you literally have people that have just become bench riders. I feel like Nancy Pelosi is a bench rider. Why are you still there? Why are you running again? See how he changed that message really quick? Really quick. From Bernie was right with the populist message to no, go away.
God, stand your ground. And I don't think that I don't think that's part of the Democratic coalition. I don't think they're redeemable. I don't think they want to be redeemed. Then I go back to the emphasis of something called American Voices that is supported by mainstream Democratic groups that had 12 at a meeting this month, April of this year, where they had bowls of buttons where you could put your pronoun and wear your button. I don't think these people get it. I don't think they ever will get it. And I've said this before, and I'll say it now. I think we ought to think about just having a schism. I think these people should get their own party. Don't call it anything Democratic. Call it the Socialist Urban Justice Community Unity Party of the whatever.
Right.
And then after the election, maybe we can have negotiations, or you can, vote for a Democrat to be the speaker if we win. But I actually think that it might be at a point where there are certain elements in a Democratic coalition that we just can't live in the same room with these people, because
he said he can't live in the same room with you. These people, he said we can't live in the same room with these people. That's what he said. Now I want to say something. There's only one thing that he said in this conversation that I agree with. And that is this, that the people who support the populist policies, universal health care, free pre-K, free college at state schools, increase the minimum wage, the people who support those policies should have their own party. I've been saying this since 2021. And the reason why I feel that way is because people like James Carville and the DNC are not going to allow those people the space to move. You get out of bounds, then they get AIPAC to come after you. And by the way, the other Democrats don't stop it. The other Democrats don't say, no, don't try to take their seat. Most of them are silent. Rashida Tlaib might say something. Ilhan Omar might say something. Most part, Corey and Jamal are gone because AIPAC said you got to go. So if they're on a team, why didn't the whole team of Democrats in the House stand up and fight for their seats? Why didn't the whole team of Democrats stand up and say, no, you don't attack my teammate. We've got her back. Why didn't they do that? Because everybody out for theirself. These people don't care. They just want to sit there, do as little work as possible, stay there long enough to get the pension, write a book, and speaking engagement fees. That's it. And the best way for them to do that is by not trying to change any damn thing, just going with the status quo. Somebody else finally said it. The only thing I agree with what he said here, which is that, yes, those people should have their own party. And I said it. Everybody that came from Justice Democrats, that should have been a separate party. I know what people say. Third parties are hard. Independent is hard. I get it. But that started years ago. Think about where it would be today. Because the Democrats aren't going to let, and I warned people about this with AOC as well. I'm going to go ahead and let you know now one more again. The DNC is not going to allow her to be the nominee. The problem that you run into with this particular strategy is they can't get out of the primary process. And now you got people like James Carville saying they shouldn't even be able to primary anybody. If you know that Bruce Spiro, who represented the DNC at the DNC lawsuit, if you know that Bruce said and explained in court that the DNC is not responsible, the federal judge made it very clear during the DNC fraud lawsuit that the DNC is a corporation and they don't really have to owe you anything when it comes to votes, that they don't owe you the nominee that you voted for. They don't. It's all written down. So that's the problem that you run into. They're not even going to let you get out of the primary. And now saying that, if that were to happen, then you know she moved over to their side. Then you know she made some compromises. Then you know that she is willing to say, okay, I'll put that populist talk behind me and I'll run a centrist, moderate campaign, right? Hell, Barack Obama didn't even want Kamala and she was right there. A little bit more here, and then I'm going to show you the response from David.
They actually learned nothing from 2024. They learned nothing from history, and they are hell-bent going this direction. And maybe what we need to do is say, you go, people, go ahead, go, and then we'll see you the Wednesday after the election and do as you do in parliamentary system. But I'm not sure that the great Democratic big tent coalition that I've spent all my life trying to cobble together, or keep together, or something like that. Maybe David Hogg and American Voices need to get their own party.
James,
And
I just
see what I've been telling you guys. What I've been telling you, right? It's like I don't know. It's like begging to be a part of I don't know. It's like begging to be a part of a club that don't want you. It's like begging to be invited to someone's birthday party when they clearly did not invite you and didn't forget to invite you. It's just, they just didn't want you there. And it's like you showing up that day and saying, hey, at their birthday party, and they're like, oh, what are you doing here? Oh, I guess you forgot to invite me. No, they don't want you. And they don't want you there because the donors don't want you there. And that's who they work for. So I actually agree with him on that part, that they need to get their own party. Now, David Hogg responded to that, and he said that James Carville is timid. He said that he's timid, like he doesn't want like change or anything like that within the Democratic Party. And this is why when people were saying James Carville is speaking the truth now after Kamala lost and that the populist way is the way to go, that's why I said give it time. And you see how quickly he's gone back around. Skylar says that's a perfect analogy, Sabby. It's like showing up to a party that you weren't invited to. That's really weird. Like they don't want you there. They don't want you there. Okay. Now, Blakely, I think, sums this up very beautifully. Blakely, she's been on this show before, pro-Palestine activist. Listen to what she says. She's trying to warn people, too.
I already see people having useless conversations in the media and online about whether or not AOC is going to run for president in 2028. First of all, we don't even know if we're going to have an election in 2028, so stop getting ahead of yourself. But second of all, you're out of your minds if you think that the DNC is going to allow that. Not only does the DNC despise her, I was about to say, we talked about this yesterday, but actually we talked about it in my live on YouTube and Twitch, not on here, but we did talk about it. And I said that not only are they never going to allow that to happen, okay, because the DNC and the Democratic establishment despise the progressives, despise them. It doesn't matter how much AOC tries to capitulate and absorb herself into the party. They still hate her, just like they still hate Bernie Sanders, and they always will. That's number one. Number two, you're out of your mind if you think they're going to run another woman. Are you kidding me? The Democrats are 0 for 0 with running women candidates. That's not going to happen. Also, they would never run a progressive. Hear me now, quote me later. They're going to run another fucking neoliberal hack. Okay? Because that is what they do. And I'm going to keep saying it and I'm going to be proven right. It's going to be one of these bad Obama impersonators. It's going to be either Gavin Newsom, Pete Buttigieg, Josh Shapiro, Cory Booker. It's going to be one of those people. It will not be a woman, and it will certainly not be a progressive. I already
Yeah, I think Blakely is spot on there. Like, you guys, it just come on, look. Now, this is why I tell people, what can you do, right? Because you know they already picked the nominee. It's not like the GOP where they don't have super delegates. The Democratic Party has super delegates. So there's that. Here's what I think people should be doing, and this is the conversation that I had with Cenk Uygur, which is that, first of all, everybody keeps focusing on what we can do on the national level. Focus on what you can do in your community. Start there. One of the things I do is mutual aid. This Saturday, I'm having the first mutual aid workshop. It will be virtual on Zoom. I'll give you more information about it Tuesday night when I go live, but you'll be able to access it through my newsletter. If you want to learn how to do mutual aid where you live, come join me for that workshop. It won't be the last one. I'll try to do one a month. Come join me for that workshop, because the reality is, folks, look, you can sit back and wait for a politician to win and hope that they pass said legislation. But I don't know about you, but I've been doing that my whole adult life. Or you can take action in your own community. And I was thinking about this, is if everybody did that, if everyone decided, I am going to try to help in my community, would so many people even like rely on presidential election? Would they hope? Would they put all their faith in a presidential election? That's one of the things. Mutual aid, that's just one. Another one is ballot measures, ballot initiatives. Guys, the progressive policies didn't pass on the national level, but they have passed in some of the states. People still talking about $15 minimum wage on the national level, which is passed in a lot of states, even red ones. What are we doing? Now is the time to get on board to start running those ballot measures, get those signatures to run ballot measures for these policies. We've passed them in Massachusetts. I think they passed the minimum wage increase even in Nebraska. I mean, it's not just blue states. This is why when Cenk Uygur was on, I said, you live in California. California is a ballot measure state. You guys have, I think, the most ballot measures on the ballot. You guys have been passing these progressive things. Why we keep trying to do things by going through climbing this damn mountain when we can just walk across the street? And it's not to say that these things are easy. They're not easy, but you see progress faster that way than you do waiting for the next presidential election. Like, I don't know how else to say it. And then we're talking about 4 years, right? Like, people go to sleep, then they wake back up. Then they go to sleep, then they wake back up. And how much has your life improved? I firmly believe there will come a time where mutual aid is going to be a necessity in this country. Some of us saw that during the pandemic. So there's that. There's mutual aid. But what you should not do is give your money to these politicians that you know aren't going to make it out of a primary because the DNC isn't going to allow them to. Bernie Sanders got over $100 million in 2020. I want you to sit back, take a look at your community, take a look at your friend's community, and ask yourself what that money could have done. Don't have a rec center, $100 million. You definitely could have a rec center for that. It wouldn't cost $100 million either. You don't have clinics in your town, your neighborhood. People got to drive really far just to get to a clinic. You could have built clinics, but we couldn't because everybody gave their money to Bernie Sanders. That included me too. I'm not perfect. That included me too. I donated a lot of money to Bernie Sanders. I look back and especially after the pandemic, I look back and I wish I would have given that money to other people, to people who actually needed it. Whether it's mutual aid, whether it's ballot measures, whether it's everybody keep talking about universal health care. We've been talking about this for the longest time. Why aren't we trying to do something like that in the States? At the end of the day, I know that people are going to do what they want. I'm not in the ballot. I'm not in the voting booth with you, right? When you go to vote, I'm not. I just don't want you giving your money to these people. Like we need to put our money back in our communities. We need to put our money into community building, into organizing and mutual aid. That's what we need to do with our money. And people say, oh, what about the Green Party? You voted for Jill Stein. Yeah, I voted for Jill Stein. I ain't donate no money either. I told you after Bernie, I was done. I said, no, I'm not donating money to politicians anymore. You guys, you're free to do as you wish. I'm just asking that you prioritize that money in your community first. $100 million could have been clinics, could have built daycares, could have built homes. We got all these homeless people out on the street. Homelessness continues to increase. But we're giving all our money to politicians. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.